mystery noir thriller that tells the story of Eva. And Eva is a German immigrant coming to New York City in the year 1946, and she is running from the fires of one war only to step straight into another fire, far colder one. But she hasn't come to New York to start a new life. Eva has come seeking justice and a Nazi who has slipped its net. And she's bringing a secret with her, the secret of Project Bluebird. And that is a secret that neither she nor the Soviets nor the Americans should ever have. So Bluebird was probably one of the most complex research projects I've ever taken on for a book. I have always researched all of my books as if they were historical fiction, even when they were sci-fi. But this one was particularly complex because it was really the bringing together of two pieces of forgotten American history. One of them was very inspiring, one of them very shameful, both of them fascinating, and both of them forgotten. And the first is Powell House. And Powell House was a program being run by Quaker volunteers. It was being run by the American Friends Service Committee, and that is the civil service wing of the Quakers. And they were running this program from an exclusive mansion that had been lent to them on the Upper East Side of New York. And the program was created to extend unconditional love, practical help, and friendship to refugees of war coming to America to start a new life. And this was a multi-religious, diverse program in a way that was so far ahead of its time, it's actually hard to believe it even existed. When you arrived at their program in America, they might have already been helping you with travel arrangements and sponsorships, with tracing family, getting visas, all of these things. But once you arrived in New York, Powell House was there with its doors open, and there was no job too big or too small. They would sew you a new suit of clothes. They would find you a job, an apartment, help you meet people, English classes, citizenship classes, American history classes, anything to make your life easier in America. And when you arrived, they assigned you a friend, an American friend, whose job it was to help you with all the little things you need, to show you how to use your money, how to take the subways, all of those little things. And that friend could be white, Black, Jewish, Catholic, atheist. It didn't matter, because the people at Powell House did not see borders. They did not see politics. They did not see race. They did not see religion. They only saw people. And their job was to love and help the people that needed help. They even had a vacation place for refugees who could have never afforded to take a vacation or go somewhere just to rest. These were people who were traumatized, who were coming out of war-torn cities and concentration camps and all of the disaster and death that came with World War II. And they would send them to actually another mansion in upstate New York on the Hudson River, where there were walks and a beautiful swimming pool and where people would cook for you. And it was just one of the most unbelievable lights in our history. That's the way I think of Powell House. And it says a lot to me about what we can be doing today to treat people well who are coming to our country for the first time. And these were just people these were lives well lived. I was able to actually go stay with the daughter of the lady who was the program director of Powell House during the war years. And she shared with me her mother's letters and diaries and papers and all of the memories that she had of the stories of people coming through Powell House. And she took me to meet a lovely Quaker lady who is in the book. She is Patricia in the book, and she was 99 years old. She is just about to turn 101 right now, and she is just the most passionate, eloquent woman who has spent her life in the service of other people and who is still just an enormous proponent of love and peace. And it was just amazing to sit in her living room and just listen to her memories about Powell House. I could go on about Powell House forever because nobody has ever known what it is. However, there was another piece of American history that came together to make Bluebird, and it could not be any more different than Powell House, and that is Project Bluebird. And Project Bluebird was a secret CIA operation that was begun just after Germany's defeat really got going in 1946. And the purpose of this secret program was to continue some of the horrific and inhumane medical experimentation that had been going on in the concentration camps, particularly in Dachau. And the purpose of continuing these experimentation was to split the human personality and to control the human mind. What they wanted to create was the perfect spies and assassins. They wanted spies who did not know they were spies. They wanted assassins who did not know that they were killers. And not only did they believe that this was possible, I mean, it sounds like science fiction. It sounds like Manchurian candidate novel, but not only did they believe it was possible, they believed that the Soviets were already doing it. And there was so much fear involved in being able to actually do this ourselves and not have the Soviets be ahead of us in a way that really would create so much power for whoever was able to do this. So not only were these experiments all too real, they were done on unwitting, unconsenting American citizens. And I believe that we were using Nazi war criminals to do them. Like in all areas of science, some of you may be familiar with Operation Paperclip, which was the CIA operation to bring Nazi scientists into America to expunge their war crimes and their records, bring them to America, and basically take the technology and keep it from the Soviet Union, and to make sure that we got all the technology that Germany had created during the war. But we excused murderers when we did this, and we circumvented their trials. There was a doctor, Dr. Kurt Bloom, who was in the doctor's trial at Nuremberg, and despite pages and pages and pages of irrefutable evidence and witnesses who testified against him as far as his war crimes in medical experimentation, he was acquitted. And that is widely accepted to have been at the behest of the CIA. And Dr. Kurt Bloom disappeared. He disappeared until the early 50s when Bluebird shut down. There was another doctor, Dr. Kurt Plotner, who was the medical experimenter at Dachau that was looking at mind control. He also disappeared. And when the French tried to extradite him, we just said, we don't know where he is. We did know where he was. We had him in a facility in Germany. He also was completely under the radar and gone until the early 1950s. And neither one of these men paid for their crimes. I think it's a good guess that they were part of Project Bluebird. So Project Bluebird became eventually Project Artichoke, which eventually became the infamous MK Ultra, and that is the program that finally came to light in the early 70s for what the CIA was doing, and was shut down um, amid a national scandal in the 70s. So this was a very shocking piece of history for me. I think of us in America as we were the good guys. We helped defeat Hitler. We liberated the concentration camp. We did some really, really good things, and we sacrificed to do those good things. But history is very nuanced. And I think this is an area that we also need to acknowledge, where we were utterly on the wrong side of right and human rights. So the juxtaposition of these two things, the utter horror of Project Bluebird, and balanced against at the same time, a wonderful place like Powell House. The idea of bringing these two histories together through one character was so fascinating to me, and it was a really fun research project, and it was a really incredible writing exercise, I think, for me to try to pull all these strings together. But I have to say, a good part of Bluebird was written during the pandemic. We were in lockdown, and it was such a dark time. There were all the racial unrest that was happening, the divisiveness of the coming election, everybody being in fear of their health and being locked down in their homes. That kind of stuff really puts a cork in your creativity, that kind of fear and that kind of stress. And I found myself looking at my own writing, and I think this is really the power of story. I looked at my own story as I was struggling through this time, and it really hit me. It's like, for every Project Bluebird, there is always going to be a Powell House, even when we don't know it's there. For every atrocity committed during World War II, there is a Stefania Podgorska who will stand up and defy that, even if we never know their names. And it really just gave me so much hope to remember that even when we cannot see the good, it is always there. That is the balance of history. That is what history has proven to us. And it gives me so much hope for our world now, because it shows me that human beings, we have the power to transform. And I think that the catalyst for that transformation is always unconditional love, just like what was shown at Powell House. And that ended up being the story that I really, really wanted to write. One girl's transformation when she, for the first time, experiences that kind of love. And it not only changed her in the story, I think it also changed me. So that's the power of story, even when it's your own story, I think. And I hope that's what readers take away from the book.
Thank you so much, Sharon. That was amazing. I really, this is one of, it's hard to say this is, it's hard to say that this is my favorite of your books, because I love all your books and each of them has such a special place in my heart. But you have encapsulated so many incredible things in here. History, your ability to do research is just unparalleled. And
it's my inability to stop doing research that is my problem.
I have a deep respect for that. And I think getting to, things that are happening right now, like you really are pinpointing a lot of the things that we're still we're still facing many, many challenges, and it's a constant struggle. Um, Everybody, don't forget to put any questions that you have. You can send them directly to me, or you can put them into the chat yourself, and we will get to as many as we can. Um, Sharon, the first thing that I wanted to ask you is, you have back matter in this book. What were you able to include in that? Can you share a little bit more about that? And just so that I know that most of our listeners here are librarians, and they care deeply about that.
Well, I was very lucky in my research in this book, despite the fact that there was so much of it this time. Not only just Powell House and Bluebird, but post-war Germany and the experience of, as the Soviets came through Germany and what happened to Germans as they were defeated, and all the way to bebop in 1946 New York and Harlem, and all of the places, medical procedures and surgeries. Oh my goodness, my poor husband, he was really, really such a good egg, and helped me so much with a lot of this. But the big research happened, I think, on two places. First of all, in the CIA, on the CIA's website, in their reading room, all of the documents on Project Bluebird that have not been destroyed. Most of them were destroyed during the congressional investigations in the 1970s, but there were quite a few boxes that were misfiled and therefore survived, and those are available through the Freedom of Information Act. You can go to their reading room, type in Bluebird, and read the same documents that I did, and they are fascinating. They almost, some of them read like a science fiction novel, only they really were real. So my challenge there was really just to tease out. I wanted to stick to the facts of the documents that I had, and what I was able to pull from Nuremberg trials and the different lives of these different Nazi doctors, and sort of try to set aside the conspiracy theory part of all of this, because you get into mind control and you go to a very strange place in the internet. So I really wanted to set that aside and really try to focus my information on the documents that were available to me. But the most amazing research aspect that I was able to do is going to Philadelphia to the American Friends Service Committee's archives, where a wonderful man helped me and brought me box after box after box on Powell House. I could not believe how meticulously Powell House had been documented. It was a treasure trove. I had the plan of the house. I knew the color of the walls. I knew everyone's salaries. I knew what they paid in taxes. I had every newsletter, every program, diaries of the girls, an unpublished memoir. It was an author's dream in there, to find all of this information. And so Powell House was written as accurately as historical fiction possibly can be written. Every person in Powell House is based on a real person that was there. Every program, every class, every single thing I mentioned were real things that they did for people. And it was just incredible. And, Powell House won. While Project Bluebird was going down in flames and infamy, Powell House won the Nobel, or the American Friends Service Committee won the Nobel Peace Prize in 1947 for their global humanitarian efforts, of which Powell House was a very, very small part.
That's amazing. I know one of the things that we always say, inspired by Mr. Fred Rogers, is look to the helpers, and that's certainly what the Friends group and Powell House were.
It is so funny you said that, because I thought of that a lot. That's exactly who they were. They were just very quietly changing lives.
That's amazing. One question has come in about your research process, as expected. But I think it points to an important question, which is how did you even come to how did you know about this? How did you come to know about these events? They're so hidden and secret. How did you figure out that this existed?
Life's funny, isn't it? How you stumble upon things and you dig a little deeper and discover what's under the surface. The first catalyst actually happened when I was writing The Light and Hidden Places. One of the things that I really wanted to do while I was writing that book was to make sure that I understood the German experience of the war. I wanted to understand what German soldiers thought about occupying Poland, about, how many of them wanted to be there, how many of them did not want to be there. And not every German soldier was there by choice. There were so many that were forced and did not want to be part of what they were part of. So that was something that I wanted to look at. And so I started listening to oral history interviews of Germans who had survived the war and lived through the war's aftermath. And I was so struck, particularly by the teenagers, those who had been teenagers in 1945. So they had grown up under Hitler. They had grown up under the Third Reich. They didn't have a concept of a world that was not run by Hitler and the Third Reich. They had been steeped in racism and all of the things that went with that. That was how their world was. And when Germany was defeated and all the horrific things happened and the atrocities that happened and the suicides and everything that went with that, so many of them had to step back, open their eyes, and realize I've been involved in something monstrous. I have a parent who ran a concentration camp. I have a parent who was Hitler's deputy. And I'm on the wrong side of history. And it was such a profound and deep moment for so many of these people. And they reacted in such different ways. Some denied, denied, denied. Others spent their lives trying to atone, and others spent their lives trying to be an agent of change. And I think that was my first real catalyst for Bluebird, to really want to write a story of how a human being can transform. We can step back, look at ourselves, and decide, am I going to be standing on the correct side of history, the side of history that I want to be remembered that I stood on? I can look at that and I can decide to change it. We are changeable. We can transform, just like so many of them did. That is our privilege as human beings. And so I really wanted to write that story. So as I started looking at the aftermath and refugees and displaced persons, that's when I heard just one little mention of Powell House, and I started digging. And when I was looking at the aftermath and post-war Berlin, that's when I started looking at what happened to Nazi war criminals and what happened to these doctors. And I looked at Operation Paperclip and I realized that there was a project, Bluebird. And that is really just, it kind of starts with one small thing and you dig deeper and deeper and deeper, and suddenly you're in a completely different place. So it wasn't where I intended to go at all. But sometimes you just go where the research takes you. And that's always a much better idea than what you came up with in the beginning.
That's incredible. And I think that speaks to the power of research as well as the power of story. I know we are about at time and people have other programs they want to get to. So thank you, Sharon, so much for speaking about this book and sharing this unknown history and this beautiful, beautiful story of a girl figuring her way through it. Thank you, everybody, for joining us too.
Thank you so much for having me. I hope all of you guys love this book as much as I do. Thank
And
you. Here we
me
go. Here
too.
it is.
Have a wonderful rest of your day. Stop by the SLJ booth to say hi, and we will see you all and talk about books really soon.
Thank you.
Bye.